You're listening to Data Center Therapy. Please take a number, and an engineer will be right with you. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to yet another episode of Data Center Therapy, a podcast from IVOXY Consulting that talks all things IT with a healthy dose of empathy. I am your host, Matt Yette, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Matt Cozzolino. Hello, Matt.
Hello, everyone.
And for those watching on video, no reason to keep the cat in the bag. We are also joined by EUC, virtuoso, end user, all kinds of compute and smarts, Mr. Ryan Grelck. Ryan, welcome back.
Yeah, hey, nice to be here again. Been a while.
You may have been on the last episode, not this last one, but the one before
yeah.
the mini hiatus that we had.
Yeah. So before the hiatus. It has been a while, but episode range, not. Yeah.
We're bridging now, which is good.
Yep.
I'm into it.
It's movie time. It just happens, right? Suddenly it's later.
Every year I did the mental exercise. Why does time seem like it goes quicker? Well, when you're 10 years old, 1 year of your life is 10% of your life. That's massive. When you're 40 years old, 1 year of your life is 2.5% of your life. So it, relative to the rest of your life, is shorter and smaller.
Yeah.
And does it ever feel that way? I remember watching the Tour de France Unchained documentary on Netflix. The same documentary team that did the Drive to Survive, probably their most popular one.
That documentary is so good. Yeah.
Right. And so, I've been cycling seriously now for like a year or so, but that one kicked off like, I'm going to try to follow this sport, like from events in the calendar and all of this. I knew nothing about it. I knew the top teams. Every year I was like, I'm going to watch the Tour de France, and then 2 weeks in, oh yeah, that's still going on. Last year, because of that documentary, I started watching it, and I'm like, ooh, I can't wait until next year, but it's so many months away. It's so far away, and
suddenly it's here, right?
Yeah. Like the season finale of Severance was over 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to die tomorrow is basically the long and short of it. My goodness, slow down. And with add a 2-year-old daughter into the mix too. And
suddenly she's going to be saying, "Dad, can I borrow the car? Dad, can I borrow the car?"
Oh my gosh!
Like tomorrow.
Right, already coming.
Yep.
And so anyway, we're reinvigorated. We've got a lot of topics to talk about. We got a few things we want to touch on today. And I think one of the things that we've all internally committed to is not making data center therapy an infomercial. Nobody wants to pop this on in the car and they drive home and hear a pitch. So we're very cognizant of that. There is one thing, though, that is somewhat new to the IVOXY sphere, at least, that we are excited about. And it is why one of the reasons we brought Ryan on to talk about. But we've recently formed a partnership with who we consider to be really one of the leaders in endpoint protection. And I say that with a wink because endpoint starts with E. And this EDR thing is quickly turning into alphabet soup.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. What? I'm curious. I try very, very hard personally not to do end user stuff because what are all those letters? What do they mean? What do they represent? I'm still thinking. Like, here's my antivirus. Here's my semantic antivirus or whatever that installed on my laptop, right?
Yeah.
What has changed?
So essentially, think of that antivirus as endpoint protection or EPP. You'll see EPP out there in the wild. You'll have your Defender, you have your Symantec, you'll have your all of your other Avast, your home companies. It's kind of like the legacy version of anti-malware. But now you have stuff like EDR, endpoint detection and response. And what that essentially is there's an agent that runs on the machine that is essentially a black box for pretty much everything that's been done. Yeah, it is magic that you've done on that machine that can then be reverse engineered by the tool, SentinelOne in this case, that can then see what all has been going on. What if there's anything that's out of the norm? The SentinelOne AI can actually figure out, hey, this is really weird. This user's connecting to these servers that they've never connected to. Mm-hmm. What's going on? So you
Okay.
could do that. And then there's also XDR, which is mostly how it's moving around on the network. So it can say you're connecting to maybe this C2C, which is another acronym, command and control. That maybe that's the base of the malicious operator is doing that for your to your machines. So you can track all of that, trace it, create reports, all that cool stuff.
So all three of these flavors, all three of these things have an agent that installs on your machine.
Yeah.
And is the agent effectively the same? And then
it'll be the same agent, single agent.
It becomes response or extended detection when you plug into the AI and the data lake and machine learning and collect all this data.
It seems like the old world of you're on your own. You've got your agent, and if you're compromised, that's great. We hope everybody else can deal with it when they eventually get hit. Where this extended seems to be this, help yourself out, but also be part of this larger awareness of what's going on.
I remember years ago when I was taking a look at what's the one Palo Alto has, Cortex XDR, and they were talking about like Excel shouldn't be launching PowerShell or that kind of stuff. So they're watching like how applications behave on your environment. What are they connecting to? Are they phoning home to stuff? That kind of things, right?
Yep.
That's kind of.
And I like the idea of we call it AI or call it whatever and back in the day heuristics, right? Do we all remember that?
Oh yeah.
The behavioral
your stuff looks like this.
Yeah. All the pattern files, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
It is cool because if you're just going by pattern matching, straight up regex, you have to know all of the malicious things to watch
write
for.
Those patterns.
Including the stuff you don't know about, which is impossible, right? And so when it's straight up an unusual occurrence, that could be enough to be considered malicious. That should be caught. We won't go too deep into it right now, but there is a email security vendor that we're also working with, and the idea of a business email compromise, because let's say you are going to get a mortgage and you're emailing your bank back and forth, and you're talking with Fred Smith back and forth, and you're about to get to the point where you have to deposit money in a special account to get whatever. And then Fred Smith's email gets hacked, and then he just replies to your email. Well, from a security standpoint, it passes SPF. It passes DMARC. It's a legitimate email from a legitimate account being controlled by an illegitimate actor. How do rules and technologies deal with that? Well, previously, you're done. That email, Fred wants me to send it here. Where something like a large model for abnormalities lets you say, oh, that's a really weird request at this juncture, or that's not right, and it will even catch that kind of technology. So apply that to endpoint protection, and it's the same kind of game, which I think is great. I mean, call it AI, call it ML, whatever you want. These engines that are ingesting a ton of behaviors, establishing what is baseline and normal, and what steps outside of that. That's for the benefit. Yeah.
It still ends up being pattern matching, right? Is fundamentally what's happening, but. I don't know that whole AI name.
But pattern matching doesn't make me.
It doesn't sound cool.
It's not pattern matching GPT. Kaz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. SentinelOne does have this really, really powerful AI tool called Purple.ai, which integrates into their console. So it can essentially give you a report of this malicious actor did such and such on your endpoints, and then breaking it down through SentinelOne uses MITRE, which is like a standards of how attacks are done. Purple.ai translates that MITRE data into natural language. You get however long needed for that specific task in human readable form. You can digest it super fast, really cool. It can also correlate all of that data into a timeline that is actionable.
Oh, that's cool.
And you could create a notebook that you could share across your team. Your SOC, your network team.
Not just what happened on your machine, but I got infected, and then it reached out and
exactly
hit this
where
other
it went
machine,
to.
and then
What
you can kind of bounce it around between the environments.
Can you imagine building a root cause analysis timeline from logs on your own?
Oh,
like that.
It's,
that's a nightmare.
It's super time sync. Whereas this is like seconds. It's amazing. It's pretty fast. It's pretty cool. I mean, I've shown you.
Are these kind of softwares doing? Are they using like everyone's data to generate? Most users should look like this. Most people environment should look like this.
I'm assuming that's how they've trained it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See that I like.
On mine,
that I
right?
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're using, or maybe they have
yeah.
honeypots or something out on the network, right? Because honeypots would be great for training, I bet.
Well, it would be like, again, I like to use the email filtering analogy because I've got an awful lot of experience in that and throughout my career. But imagine if like email filters were isolated, and I work at a hospital. Well, I'm going to be looking out for medical type,
that's it,
fraud and all this kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean I can't get popped with an electrical bill, any kind of social engineering. It doesn't need to be your industry of choice.
How many people I see using their work email for personal stuff? Your electrical bill is due and it's $4 billion. Here you go. It comes into a work email. I guarantee it. There's tons of people out there that have that happen. Yep.
I'm going to stay quiet. I'm not going to say anything.
Why? Why are you sending me this message? Oh, God.
But yes, I think good email hygiene, good password management hygiene, all these things that it's just, there is this line between easy and just let's get it done and I'll worry about it next time to actual good security posture. Mm-hmm. And they are not on the same level of effort island, not even on the same level of effort continent.
Yeah, I mean, it's a necessity nowadays to be trained on how to do all of that.
Well, in endpoint protection, for me at least, I know that over the course of my time at IVOXY, which has now tipped over 11 years, we've I would say lightly partnered with a handful of vendors throughout the years, but this is probably the first one that I've been excited about, where I'm saying this is something I'm comfortable pushing far and wide in terms of this is going to be net positive for your organization. How many AV, and again, I'm using old terms, right? There's anti-spam, antivirus. We're just talking about the same thing, but pushed an update that blue screened your Windows across the board. I mean, we've seen that happen.
Oh yeah, I mean they used to be
still happens.
Kernel ring 0, right at the kernel level, and that's why you always had those blue screens, because it has to be that low on the OS.
Man, yeah. Well, so it's something that we are really going to be making quite a bit of noise about with regards to asking questions like, are you comfortable with your endpoint protection? I personally am of the opinion, one, and this basically means I'll never work for Microsoft by putting this out on such a public plane, but the idea of Microsoft being a security company to me is laughable. It's still, I mean, I'm 42 years old. So maybe that's part of that, where I've been around for NIMDA and all of this kind of stuff. Like, oh, you're going to, it's if COVID itself started manufacturing a vaccine for itself, kind of thing. Okay. And so if Defender was good enough, then there would be no market for third-party endpoint protection products.
Right.
It would just go away. Oh, you're a 365 customer? You got it made. Yeah. We know that's not the case.
Well, speaking of Microsoft, they just deprecated NTLM authentication, which has been around since like NT 351 times. So it's kind of crazy that a lot of this legacy tech has been around and still.
I used to be of the opinion where it stinks, it's terrible, but I get it, because when you have such a massive install base, backwards compatibility is
important, super important.
And then I looked at Apple and I said, well, what do they care? They've got 2% of the market, so they can jump from PowerPC to Intel and not matter and tell everybody to start over because it's not a huge. And I'm kind of backing away from that position, because Mac is not a tiny sliver of the market share. They've got a large user base, and they've managed to transition twice now in 15 years, 20 years, their processor architecture, and have made it seamless pretty much to the end user up to this point. You would think a $3 trillion company like Microsoft as well could pull that off, but they seem to be pretty busy doing some pretty draconian stuff right now.
Yeah.
Also, segue to this Windows recall thing.
Yeah.
Ryan, what's recall supposed to be?
So recall.
Give me the promise.
A short story about Mars, right?
Yeah. So recall is essentially when you're running a Windows 11 machine on your own personal machine. Recall is always recording everything on your screen that you can do. The benefit that Microsoft says is you can search for your lifetime any document, anything you've ever typed into your machine gets put into this local SQLite database that can then be indexed, searched, etc. So it's cool on a technology
is it
level.
like a native keystroke logger? So
it essentially is.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the way I read it is it's an image based. It's capturing like a video feed, but then it basically uses algorithms, AI, whatever, to basically pull text recognition and everything else in images, and then it catalogs it into this searchable thing. I can see one way how let's assume it's benevolent all the way. I can see one benefit. That's a pretty heavy benefit. Where's that freaking website that I read about? I know I did it like yesterday evening.
Yep.
I closed a tab.
You can
I
just
can't
rewind
find
through
it
your
in my
browsing
history, but I know I read it. So where the hell is it? I'm guessing that is like probably the number one use case.
Yep.
I'm willing to forego that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that it's going to be using OCR, only because it's Microsoft. They can have API hooks into the native Windows API, and they could just grab that data as it's being rendered, right?
I mean,
then it can be compressed.
The effect is it's all up there, and it's basically like it remembers the words that it saw one way or the other.
Right.
So that you said SQLite database, but from what I also read about this tool that somebody just released called Total Recall, which is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's a great name, yeah.
That, I mean, as it stands right now, it's in beta, right? It's not, it's a preview or something like that, right? It's not out there.
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, Recall's still in beta also, so
well, that's what I mean. Recall
how big does that data get? Like, how long do they keep?
So
how much data is there?
They're saying like 50 gigabytes of data locally, but keep in mind that this is all text data that's going to be compressed, so it can encompass years of data in that 50 gigabytes.
Don't worry, you have Microsoft account, so you get 1 terabyte of OneDrive for free. So just store it in our cloud. We'll take care of it, we promise.
Yeah.
So Total Recall takes this unencrypted, as it is right now, SQL database and cracks it open. So that can be exfiltrated quite easily as it stands right now.
Yeah.
Well, even if it's
practical
encrypted,
tool,
it's
whatever,
only going to be encrypted for a decade, a couple of years before that encryption level is breakable, right?
Can it perform if it is running encrypted, right? I think that's probably the problem.
I believe it's going to be using BitLocker for the encryption also.
I mean, I know Windows 11 is all about performance. All I hear about is how blazingly fast Windows 11 is.
Well, my desktop's too old to run Windows 11, so I'm sticking with 10 till I move to Linux. Yeah.
15 minutes.
I think, and I hate to, like I mentioned my age earlier, right? I mentioned that, just because you get older, the skepticism I don't think necessarily is just some default get off my lawn reaction either. The bad shit can happen, pardon me, and it's okay to say that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of this is you think about the Rockefellers, Big Oil, and all these like conglomerates that have gone through the years that, Microsoft in the 90s and at the end of the day, slap on the wrist kind of thing. And big
tech
cost
of doing business, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big tech right now is kind of operating with impunity. And, oh, great, Facebook got caught doing this or that and the other thing. Zuckerberg gets called in front.
Well,
and nothing.
We're what, middle-aged now, and still asking questions and still wrapping our heads around it and work in this environment, right? Mm-hmm. Who's gonna say, hey, Microsoft, you can't do that, or hey, Apple, you can't do that? Who understands it enough to be able to say, no, you can't?
Well,
no, you shouldn't.
know what would help a healthy skepticism amongst the core population. Like, there was a chart I just saw based on age, and it was trusting. It was something about trusting. Chinese vehicles, right? The whole electrical vehicle thing. That's and where there was like likelihood of purchasing, like up to 20 years old was the highest percentage, and then every decade after that, it showed that willingness to buy going down. Fine. The line of worries or concerns about privacy was 80% for every single age group. So you got 18-year-olds who say, I'm worried about it, but hell with it. I'm going to buy it. You got 50-year-olds saying, I'm worried about it, but no way because I'm worried about it. It's just so weird that the worry is the same and yet the willingness changes.
I'd argue, or I'd throw in there a little bit that, yes, you might be worried about it, but what's your other option? I don't want to buy anything on a subscription, but what's my option?
Mm-hmm.
I have to, right? I wanna buy that. The vendors are making these choices, and they're all making the same choice, and now I have very few choices, right? I'd love to not buy styrofoam at the store, but everything's in bloody styrofoam. So what do I do, right?
Yep. I like to look at it as taking anything that's within my control and doing all I can with it. I've made a conscious effort 4 or 5 years ago to completely extract Google from my life. And I feel like between ad blockers and account usage and site usage and all of this, I feel like I do a pretty good job of that. So to the point, Coz, it gets to how badly do you want X? If the only way to get X is via one of these vehicles, it's I think looking inward to the principles, it's okay to go without on something like maybe I don't need Netflix or whatever that thing is.
And you have to make that decision for yourself, and it's a hard decision to make. And it's the littlest things. When I go to a website and it says, hey, create an account and log in, or use your Gmail account to log in, I create an account and log in.
Absolutely.
Every single time. Throw away email with that account too.
Well, I use this exact same email.
But the iCloud hide my email is wonderful. It creates an alias blah.
I think that's so awesome.
It's great.
I use Firefox for that also.
Does Firefox do something
Mozilla
similar?
has or not Firefox. Mozilla has a service. Yeah.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Firefox, I feel like Firefox has gone downhill a little bit. I'm finding more and more that I have to launch my Comcast site so I can get my bill for my internet so that I can expense it. Right? That I have to run in Chrome. I can't run that in Firefox because it says show my bill, show me the PDF, and it just falls on its face. I want it better. I want it better.
Well, have you heard? And I know we're off on quite the tangent now, but have you heard that?
Perfect.
So Firefox is like the last man standing with regards to an independent browser, because all of these other browsers use the Chromium engine, and what allows them to do that is they don't have to maintain the engine, right? So they do their add-ons, their wrappers, their GUI, their ad blocks, whatever. But now the latest version of Chromium, who maintains it? Google has taken away the architecture for plugins, and what it's meant to do is to say this ad blocker stuff's way too powerful and it's killing our core business. So we're going to take away that ability for plugins to do that kind of blocking. And if you want to still run a Chromium browser, we're going to deprecate this old plugin architecture. And so eventually you're going to be behind on Chromium, and things are going to start breaking, and websites are going to not start loading in your browser. People are going to abandon ship. So, people are thinking maybe Brave has enough
Brave is
momentum.
still Chromium, though, isn't it?
It is, but people are saying maybe Brave has enough to fork Chromium. Anybody can fork Chromium, but you're going to want to maintain it up. You want to keep it.
That is a big
challenge.
investment,
So that's why everyone's kind of looking back to Firefox like, hey, guys,
You have an option. You have an opportunity here, right?
And let's say they do. Firefox is on its 2 feet probably because Google slips on what they do. I think it's like 9 figures. It's like $500 million a year.
It's a lot of money,
to be the default Google search provider. If Google says, you know what, we don't like that anymore, and it's hurting us more than $500 million a year in ads because of all these users using Firefox blocking our ads, then we'll just pull it and Firefox dies in the vine. It's just, and it goes to the point of if the people just gave themselves a little bit more willingness to not just hit the easy button.
Are you the top hat or the shoe or the car when you play Monopoly? Ryan got
I'm
it.
just completely flummoxed. You jammed me up on that.
Well, that's what it is. That's what we're saying, right? Chromium, Google, that's a giant monopolistic thing that's happening. They're investing in Firefox.
What you did there.
Yeah, right?
Cozzolino. All right, so we can go to AI, and this is not the intended topic here. That's fine. I love it. It's organic like that. We did want to talk about one other thing here. It's a teaser. We plan to dive into this more deeply as we approach the actual offering. But Kaz, you and I talked about it on the last episode about when we talked about Broadcom and VMware and the reduced number of tiers. And we find that a lot of customers today that are running Enterprise Plus, or known as Enterprise Plus, the most similar lateral move to maintain all the features of E Plus is what's called VVF, VMware vSphere Foundation. That's their first suite, really. I mean, you got Essentials Plus and Standard are still the kind of the old style SKUs.
Yeah. Yep. Here's your training wheels.
VVF and VCF are the new suite tiers, SUITE, and with VVF being the smaller of the two. So it is basically Enterprise Plus from a vSphere level, but it also includes Aria Operations, or Aria Standard Suite, which includes Aria Operations. And if you're not familiar, Aria is what used to be known as VROPS, vRealize Operations. Yep. And also, like you said, Ryan, includes a Log Insight tool as well, which, in my opinion, is a fantastic Splunk alternative, especially for people who don't have anything. Like if you have a full-blown Splunk environment,
it's just a log collector.
Yep. But you can do dashboard and reporting and stuff like that. I mean, if you already have a Splunk environment that's heavy, would I say let's do Log Insight? Probably not. But if you're a customer who doesn't do any kind of SIM or event correlation, it's fantastic. So okay, great. Now I'm a customer who bought VVF, and I've got this Aria thing included, but I don't know the first thing about it.
Yeah. So,
what are you doing, Ryan?
So I'm building a class right now so that we'll deploy Aria Operations, Log Insight, tie them into vSphere, and how to use it inside your own environment. So you'll have kind of like a broken vSphere deployment, and we'll use the tool to help remedy that, along with it can monitor your VMs also. So if there's any issues with your VMs, we could take a look at that also.
So what I'm inferring, what I see with VMware is that they're trying to give us as the administrators of the VMware environment the same kind of tools that AWS or Azure has, right? Here, make your own cloud. Yep. And this Aria piece is the dashboard that then kind of like pulls everything together. Here's your NSX, here's your vSAN, here's your VMware environment, here's your this. Let me show you all of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is very cloud-like also, like right-sizing your VMs, making sure that, hey, you don't have enough CPU on this VM,
or you have too much.
It can say, all right, you probably want to bump it to 2 vCPUs more than you currently have, and then that will fulfill your needs for this.
And
VM
it's gonna watch all of the metrics, all of the things we have to manually go check, right? To come up with those recommendations. So
and I think even going back to when it was still vRealize Operations, or what was it, VCops, I think even earlier than that, vCenter Operations. For those who have bought like vCloud suites way back in the day, you would have had this. And for a number of our customers, I found it was one of those things like any monitoring, right? Anybody can install a monitoring platform.
No one looks
what should I be looking for? So we would have it with our customers, some of them, and we'd install it, and then it's like, okay, Matt, let's set up some reports. Okay, well, what matters to you, Mr. Business? Like, right, exactly. It's shrug emoji, and that this class is meant to let's get some best practice, practical examples of how to leverage this in your environment. Because if you're paying for it, you absolutely should be leveraging it. And we really hope to enlighten our customers and help them embrace that and feel like they're getting that additional value out of it. So I'm excited for this class. It's something that, again, yeah, the VROPS has always been kind of on the edge. Yeah, we do it, and there have been very few customers that I've seen truly embrace it to its fullest potential. And that's not to really anybody's fault. It's not the product's fault. It's just if the first thing is, okay, what do you want this to be? Getting past that level is the biggest challenge. And the class will hopefully open eyes to say, this is how it can be used in a million ways. We can't talk about all million, but let's talk about the core 10 that are really going to help you get off the schneid on this thing and really get some good use out of it.
That's I think the one most obvious positive about what Broadcom has done is they've taken all of these individual components that I don't know why I need Aria. I don't know why I need ops. Well, here, let's just put it in. Now you get this because we want you to do this with your vSphere environment. So here's these tools that you need.
And Aria is one of those things that I think everybody can get use out of. It's not some ethereal edge product. It's not HGTV that they're trying to bundle with HBO. It's not that, and no offense to any HGTV. I'm trying to take some channel that 3 people watch that they're bundling with the big CBS. You know what I mean? They're not doing that. They're taking another core part of the suite and including it, which I agree, Kaz, is probably a good idea.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's pretty cool.
So we're going to be talking about that more, but the idea is, and don't hold me to a promise, but the idea is starting in Q3, and we work on a calendar year. So we're talking, August, September time frame, hopefully, we're looking at offering this class. Is that right? Or is it July's Q3, isn't it?
Yeah, July.
So quarter 4, right?
Yeah. No,
Q3?
July, August, September time frame.
Okay.
That's the idea. So yeah, and that was just me telling Kaz something that he just learned. So maybe we'll have a huddle like this. No, but it's quote unquote soon. Yeah. To put it in specific terms, that we're excited about it. Matt has actually, in addition to his role being an all-around rock star, solutions architect, implementer, whatever, educator, he's also taken the lead in maestroing the development of our courses here. So if anybody of y'all know Matt out there, have been in one of his classes or worked with him, Matt loves to show and tell. He's an educator, he's a teacher at heart. Let me show you this whiteboard. Let me show you these pictures. Let me show you this drawing on how I did this. And it's just, I think, is a natural fit for building educational classes. And not just like, here, go, pull some slides or go read through documentation, write your own words. It's really putting things into a project, structuring them, so the product is ultimately the highest quality possible. So just to let you know, that's how hard Matt's working out there. And Ryan is basically under his tutelage in this manner and building it out and doing the nuts and bolts of it. And I'm just excited to be able to say that in a couple months' time we'll be teaching this thing. So keep an eye out. We'll push it wide and be very, very in depth about the syllabus and what that's going to look like closer to that time. Yeah.
Super simple, but super complicated all at the same time.
Right. And we're trying to boil that down.
Yeah.
Trying to think if we have any announcements. Nothing that I can see. Do you gents have anything you want to give a heads up on before we adjourn for the day?
The only thing I've got is more training.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? Oh, good question. Softball.
Wow.
Well, we're doing Aria. We're doing a networking for administrators class. We're going to cover some of that stuff. And what's the other one we're putting together? We're talking DR. The DR one's a little further out, but DR is the other thing. So we got some other good stuff coming.
Well, the DR I'm super excited about also because it's one of those, how many customers have you walked into and the end result of any disaster question, what does it look like bringing it back up? And can you bring it back up within your stated goals? Do you have those goals? All of these things where instead of the C-level thinking, oh, we keep everything forever. That's our backup strategy. And that's great. How do you get it back? Kaz just really organically has a handful of these projects in stream and various points of progress. And we really looked inward and said, this is something that it's one thing to have a backup solution, and that it's completely critical. That's great. What's the next step look like now? Let's make sure that purchase or the purchase you're thinking about making fits in appropriately with the bigger picture. And it's not just, great, we sold a thingamajig and you got that thingamajig and you like it. It's let's make sure that investment is well made, and every part of that workflow, that runbook process is considered and doable, not just pie in the sky. Cross our fingers, we had a disaster.
There's a lot of things that go into that DR, business continuity process. I don't know if the one that comes to mind, I don't know if either of you guys ever had the like how to draw books. And the classic, the meme example of that is how to draw an owl. The book says you draw a circle, then you draw a bigger circle, and you put some triangles, and then you draw the rest of the owl.
Yeah.
Right? That's what when I look at any of the products, any one product says, here, we do this, we do this, we do this, and then you do everything else. And the product doesn't solve the problem. It's the everything you have to put together with it.
I think we've got a title for the DR workshop. Is how to draw an owl, a DR journey with Matt Cozzolino. Or how to shave a yak. You can go the other way too.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. But I've never used that in a positive connotation.
One bite at a time.
Yep.
Well, Ryan, thanks for joining us, man. It's really good to have you on the pod again.
Great being here.
Yeah, and good to be getting some momentum here. So if you've got questions, email us at podcast@ivoxy.com. ivoxy.com and the website. You want to check out our events. Matt, when is are we the networking for server administrators? Is that just a class forthcoming? There's no more events on that, right?
I believe the answer to that is yes. And I think we're looking at, as I furiously click through my calendar, end of July, 1st of August. I guess I have a class coming up too. Maybe I'm before Ryan.
About 6 or 7 weeks away.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be dropping the links for the registrations on the podcast episode if the registration's open already. But again, we hope to be doing these every couple of weeks now. So if you don't see on the website post for the podcast today, we'll see you at the next episode for sure. Ryan, Matt, thanks for joining. Really good to chat with you folks.
That's a good one.
Thanks, Matt and Matt.
And thanks, everyone, for listening. Yeah, all right. Well, take care. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Data Center Therapy. We'll catch you next time.